So this is primary inspection. So this is the initial point a traveler entering the country is going to come up to. So we've been getting ready for this for the past couple of months, realigning staffing, anticipating, working with governments on both sides of the border to include law enforcement and elected officials. And we were, long before we opened up November 8th, we were getting ready for this.
For the people who are coming across, what sort of documentation do they have to have with them when they're ready to present?
So there's U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents who just need to declare their citizenship or present their immigration document. Truck drivers are still considered essential travelers, so they just need their crossing visa. Now, what we started new with November 8th was the fully vaccinated visa holders that could come in. So they need to come in, present their documentation as far as immigration documents, and then declare to the officer that whether or not they're fully vaccinated.
Are CBP officers verifying vaccine documents?
So we want to focus on our priorities. We still are responsible for border security. We're responsible to stop the flow of opioids and other dangerous drugs. So on primary, they get the attestation whether somebody's fully vaccinated or not. If they have a question about that, they can refer to secondary, and the officers in secondary inspection can look into it a little further.
In Nogales, there are a total of 17 vehicle lanes between the Mariposa and DeConcini port of entry. Wait times vary depending on the day and the time of day. Over the years, the numbers have fluctuated. Arizona Public Media use CBP data to illustrate the movement. Right now, 8,000 to 9,000 vehicles pass through Nogales daily, while commercial trucks average 12 to 1,300. This port is on pace to reach a record year with more than 380,000 trucks as a yearly average.
We bought in over 1 trillion pounds of produce last year. Arizona did not consume 1 trillion pounds of produce. So you see, as you drove into town, the flyover bridges, coming in a small town like Nogales. The state invested $134 million for that. The one purpose of that is to get trucks coming through, trade coming through Nogales or going into Mexico, a mile and a half up the road to the border or away from the border. So the economic piece that CBP does, that's jobs created and maintained. That's essential supplies that America needs throughout the U.S. Food, cattle, cars, all of that come through here on a daily basis.
In preparing for the government lifting restrictions, Humphrey says his team relied heavily on the agency's online programs and digital apps to process I-94 permits at the Morley pedestrian port. $6 permits that allow for land crossings and extensive travel into the U.S. Active for 6 months, many expired during the pandemic. In 2 weeks, officers issued 3,000 permits. Once restrictions lifted, Humphrey says officers went from processing 30,000 pedestrians in 1 week to 50,000 the following. Among the restrictions that remain in place are Title 42, the public health law that prevents many non-citizens from entering the U.S. claiming asylum.
Yes, so Title 42 remains in effect for everybody, but unaccompanied children, we're still processing those that enter.
Another shift during the pandemic, Humphrey said, was illicit activity, which continued and increased when it came to hard drugs, including 5 million fentanyl pills and 8,000 pounds of methamphetamine, as well as a spike in internal body cavity carriers. Though the agency declines to release the exact number of port officers in Arizona, Humphrey says Nogales is fully staffed, and it's evident in the contraband seized inbound to the U.S. as well as outbound to Mexico.
Thousands upon thousands of rounds of assault rifle ammunition being seized. We've seen assault rifles being seized this past year. We even seized a 50 caliber machine gun. That is an implement of war
A careful balance, he says, managing international relationships that include travel, trade, and public safety.
One thing we have to keep in mind is, 98, 99% of the people crossing the border here are hard-working, honest people, just trying to come over to shop, to visit family, to go to medical appointments. And there's a very small percentage that are coming here for bad purposes. So most people crossing the border are doing it for legitimate reasons. We have to find those that are up to no good.